Alcohol. Okay. It's like, wait. We have Moscato. Hi guys! Welcome back to our channel.
So, today's video, in an earlier video, the How We Met video, we talked about how we became friends through our college acapella group. And we also said that that was, if I remember correctly, hot garbage.
Yes.
And how that solidified our friendship and whatnot. So this is the video telling you all about it.
So, welcome to our story time.
Yay! So now, for the tea, or should I say, the Moscato.
I don't even know where to start, to be honest.
With the drink. So, we joined Acapella our freshman year.
Yes.
Our freshman year of college.
I think I had said in the first video that at that time, I thought she was older than me. Like, she had been at that school for a while and
whatnot. And I said how I thought she was nice or whatever. But what we did not tell you is how we thought the group was going to be great and talented. We were wrong.
Not even gonna lie, I really was just like pitch perfect all the way.
Exactly. I was like, Acapella, I got this.
It was a journey, to say the least.
First, we're gonna start with. So freshman year, I was both in the competition team and like the regular team where like everyone from our school went through. And then we had auditions. We both got in. Yay. And that's where the story begins. Our director,
we're gonna call them X.
They were the president and kind of like the director of the group, which we will now refer to as X. Yes.
They were... Is forced to be reckoned with a compliment?
Yes, it can be.
I'm not using it as such.
They were a force. Like a tornado, a tsunami, a hurricane. All of those things at one time.
And in the beginning, I thought they were very nice. I thought they were very cool. And I thought that was going to be the trajectory of the group. But... was it freshman year? I wasn't in the competition team. I was just in the street team. And I saw like little snippets or little examples of how they were not the best person.
Not at all. Not even like, no.
But for some reason, even through that and hearing stories and such, I still took it upon myself to rejoin Acapella.
The second time.
And my sophomore year, yeah. And I think that year it was just a competition team, right?
Yeah, it was just a competition team. Here's the thing. So, like, because I was in competition team my freshman year, and everyone told me that this person X was a certain way, like the people who were in it past and whatnot, if I came in contact with them, they would say that they were very manipulative, disrespectful, and rude. But because I didn't know them, I said I would give them the benefit of the doubt. I just assumed that people were just upset about how the group went, and so they just decided to defame this person.
Or that there were like just misunderstandings, like
yes.
lack of communication, things like that.
So here's the thing. Just tip for life. If more than one person tells you someone is the way they are, and some of them have never met each other, go ahead and listen. Just believe them. Take it to your heart, and don't do what they just told you not to. Like, just don't do it. Just don't do it.
So, there's not really much to explain as far as our freshman year in Acapella. Everything that went down truly was sophomore year.
True, and it started second semester of freshman year, like towards the end of second semester. I just assumed that they must have been having a bad year, so I joined again.
And then I wasn't going to join again because I felt like I should focus on school. But then all my friends that were in Acapella were just like, yes, join us. And I don't know why. Listen, peer pressure.
Friendship.
I guess. And so I was just like, I asked my parents, and I said, just please, like, let me do it. Let's just see how it goes. And so I paid my dues, and I rejoined. And it was fine. But then they it's like insidiously, they slowly start to show that they're not a good person.
Yes.
And even in us not being specific about who they are or anything like that, we still don't want to call them out of their name. We just don't roll that way, but
we're just gonna be as honest as possible without adding
extra details,
extra insults.
Like I said, in the beginning, it was fine, but they really had a way of not, like, as Jodi said, just not listening. And anytime you wanted to give creative direction or change anything, they would get up in arms and get defensive. They would get upset at you or things like that. Or they would say that they would do a certain thing and then never do it and keep it the same way that they already had it, as far as music goes.
And here's the kicker. The music that we used was 95% of the time not created by the person. It was jacked off the internet.
That is true.
So, getting angry at us for wanting to change something that originally wasn't theirs in the first place.
It's confusing.
Very
to
much
say the
so.
least. It slowly would become a situation where most everyone in the group was just getting fed up. We were being made to sing things that were out of our ranges. So I was singing a very high C. Music people, if you know what that means. That I'm an alto.
I'm a tenor.
I am an alto, and the situation kind of felt like an abusive relationship. So you felt like, and I'm being serious, you felt like you couldn't say anything.
Yes. It was
because you didn't want to disrupt anything.
Exactly. Every day was breathing in toxic environments.
Yes.
Like fine dust in the air.
And so having us sing all of these things that were not within our range, like, messed up a lot of our voices. Like, my voice still isn't the same as it was before, and it's been a couple years.
Yes. And they used to say things like, you don't need to warm up. You talked all day. That is your warm up. If you know anything about music and singing, that is incorrect.
And so there was just a lot of incorrect practice going on. And I know there would be some days where, like, this person, the president, they weren't there. True. They weren't there. And the energy in the room was just so good. And me, Jodi, this other person, we would kind of take charge and point us in a direction that made sense. But then as soon as X came back, energy sucked out of the room, and they would get so upset that we even thought to change things.
To the point where at one point, one of the people in our group was singing their part, and they sang it well, but we had changed the arrangement and sent it to them while they were out and about. And their response was to then send back the arrangement and remove that person off their part completely because we changed it.
Also, they did not like, X did not like this person for reasons that didn't make any sense. The other person had a discussion with X saying that they felt like they were being mistreated, and X took that as a complete attack on their character, and after that started to try to do little things to undermine that person.
Yes. And because we were friends with that person, it became an attack on our group. Except, side note, I guess throughout this whole thing, X assumed that I wasn't involved in anything that was, I guess, negative towards them, and that I was a bystander and I was being manipulated into saying and doing things because of friendship.
And they thought, since I was really close with that other person, that I was just sticking my neck into business that wasn't mine. So it was just an amalgamation of buffoonery.
Yes.
And
I think one of my favorite things that X used to do, though, is if for some reason there was an issue at practice that day, or like a prolonged negativity that was in the air, they would come into the room and we would have these come to Jesus meetings. And normally it's maybe like once a couple months, like there's some problem that's happened. We had them literally maybe twice a week on a good week. But they would come in and they would look at all of us and say, so I just want to know, why do you guys treat me like such a crappy person? And the room would just be in quiet. Because who's really going to answer that question?
There was a specific time where I guess after drama had unfolded between me, Jodi, our friend, and X, we were going to go on a trip, an Acapella trip, and we assumed that we were not going to be put in the same car with X. That wasn't the case.
Yes.
And so we were put into their car, and the ride...
By them.
Yes, by them. And by X. And the ride there was chill. We were singing songs, whatever. We had the trip, and we were coming back, and we were in the car. It was X. Our friend was in the passenger seat. I was behind our friend, and Jodi was behind X. And we were just listening to music. We were all tired. And X turns the radio down. And it's just like, before they even said anything, I was just like,
here we go.
And so they asked, I just want to know, why do you guys treat me like a crappy person? And our friend and Jodi were not going to say anything. It was just quiet. But being myself, I looked out the window and I took a deep breath, prayed for a second, because I needed to know what's happening. And so I said, how do we treat you like a crappy person? And then they went into this long spiel about, or giving examples on how we do such things. And it wasn't making any sense. And so our friend was trying to explain themselves. I was calm pretty much the whole time until they hit a point where they brought up this rule that we had about fraternization.
Which was not allowed within the club.
And then they tried to say that our friend group being platonically affectionate was fraternization. And I was like...
So Tina did the thing. She was like, so what's the definition of fraternization?
And they said that they don't know the definition right off the top of their head. And so they proceeded to Google it while we're on the highway.
they are driving
quickly. And I was just like...
They said something so ridiculous that I started laughing.
I don't even remember what it was.
I don't remember what it was at all, but I just remember it being so out of left field. Actually, no, from outer space. And I tried to contain my laughter, but I couldn't. So Tina and I were in the back seat as, like, they were having this argument or whatever, conversation, whatever you want to call it, holding hands and dying silently in the back seat because none of the conversation made sense.
I was just sat there in a state of confusionment.
Because they were like, why do you allow other people to treat me like that? I thought we were friends. I thought we were better than this. Were you not the one talking mess about her behind her back?
True.
So just none of it made sense. So I remember asking at one point about their driving because they were driving very quickly. They were upset. And I thought we were going to hit the guardrail and die. Their response to me was, I'm not speeding because I'm angry. This is just how I normally drive.
but the driving was erratic.
It was erratic and swervy.
So I was in fear.
Yes, because at one point we did make it. Because at one point they were having an argument with the person sitting next to them, and their eyes. We sent the prayer up so we didn't die.
And after that, I think before this, we, as a group, silently were discussing, when I say group, the Acapella group, silently discussing, after such and such event, we're going to disband this group because none of us are happy.
Yes. It was either a conversation of disbanding or removing X as our leader. We knew that removing X as our leader would not work, but it was just a thought.
And I wanted to point out that the way we handled this was a while ago, but the way we handled this, we more than likely could have handled it better. We handled it in a somewhat childish fashion. As far as like talking amongst each other and things, we could have handled that better.
We could have.
But our hearts were in the right place.
Yes. Because I think we were all just fed up with being treated as if we were common trash.
Peasants.
Because at one point we would ask this person to hang out with us because for the most part, everyone else within the group, we hung out outside of Acapella, which they had also said was fraternization. Us hanging out outside of Acapella in the non-Acapella format was fraternization. So being friends with our members was fraternization.
But what I think truly upset them was the fact that they weren't invited. But they weren't invited because they wouldn't enjoy the things that we were doing.
Yes, because originally when we would do things, we would talk about it within the group. And they would say things like, why would you even want to do that? It doesn't sound fun. Or, I don't want to be involved in that. So them saying that, we would not invite them. And the things that we did do that we invited them to, they never went. So, case in point, you ask someone something enough times and they say no, you're going to stop asking.
But they wanted to be invited anyway so that they could say no.
Which was exactly what they said. They said, I would like to be invited, so I had the option to say no.
And so then, I think just all this negative energy was just culminating in everyone. And it was such a negative experience. So I'm pretty sure I remember the exact date that it ended.
Yes.
I'm not going to say it. I'll just say that it was in February.
Yep.
And I think we had recently gotten back from an event maybe a couple days prior.
Yes. And at this event, I think this was like one of the last things that we're just like, we're tired of it. We went to eat after the event. And X decided that we were not allowed to sit with our friends. This was a direct attack on Tina, I, and our friend because we always sat together and we always talked. Little did they know, though, we were chill with everybody. They didn't allow us to sit with our friends, and they got upset because after getting the judges' critique back, they said something negative about them, about their singing ability, and how they helped with the part or like their assistance in the part, and basically said that it was unnecessary and unneeded.
Wait, at the
competition,
that the judges had said something about their
X.
like their performance.
Yes, about X's performance within our group, to which X then said that the judges mistakenly wrote the wrong person's name, but no one else in the group sang that part.
You're also the type of person to get upset, or seemingly so. I don't want to like misspeak, but seemingly so, like to get upset at those who receive compliments if they didn't receive compliments. So that was a thing. But the night that it all ended.
Oh, wow. That was... That was a night.
I don't even know where to begin in that.
It started with, I think we were originally all talking about how we wanted to have a come to Jesus meeting about changes that we thought should be made to the group in order for it to function in positivity and to actually win competitions and grow. That's kind of how the conversation had started. And the moment we uttered, we think that there needs to either be an assistant director or you can no longer be president and director.
See, my mind has, like, just erased certain parts of this night because it was just so much.
And that was the kickoff.
But one member in our group wanted to speak to X privately, and that was to inform them that they wanted to leave the group. And after this one person did that, one by one, people were saying the same thing, to where X decided to come out, and we had this big group meeting in a hallway, and they start... What did X start talking about? Like, how we treated them
poorly, and how we didn't invite them to things, and how we let them be left out of group things, and how we didn't listen to them.
Oh, and how we talked about them how we talked about X behind their back, and that they had recordings of us talking about them behind their back.
And in order for that to happen, which I'm not saying it's right to talk about her behind her back.
It was wrong to talk about X behind their back. I do apologize for that.
And in stating that, whatever we said behind their back, we said to their face.
That is true. That is true.
I believe that if you're going to say anything behind someone's back and you can't say it to their face, you had no business saying it in the first place. So...
Or whatever they believe that they heard, I owned up to it. Like, yes, I did say that.
I'm not saying it's right that we did that, but...
Right. But
just...
It's important to own up to it.
Yes. But for them to have had recordings or screenshots or anything like that, there would have been someone else in our group who was feeding them that information.
We knew exactly who it was, though.
Yes, we knew the exact person. It was pinpointed. It was, yes.
And so at some point it got, the way we were all sat, X was standing on the opposite wall. There was a person at the end of the hall, a person in the middle, another person, and then the rest of us. So it was clearly divided in where everyone stood in the situation.
Yes, by who was obviously done, who was kind of willing to work it out, and who was on their side.
And it just became very dramatic, and more dramatic than I was prepared for. There was a lot of crying, and it just felt very, very awkward. And I am the type of person that I feel very much when people cry. If someone is crying, I will more than likely cry too.
Yes.
But in this situation, when X cried, I thought to myself, what is happening? Because, like,
it was incredible.
They rarely ever showed this emotion. And the emotion that they mainly showed was just being angry and being disrespectful to the rest of us. But now that the situation wasn't going in the way that they wanted, tears came out. So it didn't feel genuine.
Yes.
But, so in that, it's like Jodi and I could tell that it wasn't genuine, but everybody else was crying.
Because here's the thing. For most people, actually, let me preface this with saying that there had been times where I had told X how others were feeling about their X's treatment towards them. I had told X in private. So it wasn't like they weren't aware of how people were feeling. Mm-hmm. They chose to not care and said basically that we felt that way on our own accord. Mm-hmm. So then X decided that during that time when they were crying that they would then throw their sob life story into our faces.
Yes. Like they were using that as an excuse as to why they acted the way they did, which I understand that certain situations can lead you to be a certain type of way, but at the end of the day, the situation that was explained to us wasn't an excuse for the way that we were treated, because it was emotionally abusive.
Yes. And I'm a firm believer, at some point, no matter what happened in your past, you are fully responsible in how you treat others and how you act in your future. That's all on you. And I'm not saying that what happened to you in the past does not affect the way you do certain things or stuff like that.
It doesn't lessen what happened to you.
Yes, but I just feel like just because bad things happen to you, you should... that it's best that you treat everyone just better, or you just stay away from the people you feel like you can't treat nicely.
Mm-hmm. So after they explained like their story and like certain side stories, everyone basically was crying, and then everyone that was sat on our side, they were giving X hugs and things like that,
and apologizing and whatnot.
I think Jodi and I just left.
And before that, there was a point where, like, while everyone was hugging her, I raised my hand and I said...
You did say something.
Yes. I remember saying to this person, to X, saying, I am sorry that happened to you, and I'm sorry that you felt that you couldn't come to us. But there have been more than one occasion where I had said to X that I'm always willing to listen because we were a group together. And I remember saying that to them and saying, however, the way you're treating us it's not adding up. It's not adding up. And then they got mad at me, and that's when the extra yelling happened. When they were yelling at the people who were with them on their side.
Okay.
I'm not going to go into detail on exactly what was said, because then if they come across this video, they'll know.
And that's their personal business.
Yes. But a lot of things were said, things that they had done for said person that in that space had no reason to be brought up, but they were using it as, I guess, a reason for them to be on their side.
It was akin to a soap opera.
Oh, yes.
Very
like
much
a telenovela. So. Yes, that's what it was. Yes.
So, at the end of it, when everyone dispersed, we all left, Jodi had driven me and our other friend back to our dorms, and our friend was in the passenger seat, and she was, and they were
upset.
They were teary-eyed, sniffling.
They had said if they knew what had happened to X in the past, it would have changed the way they had spoken to them. Mm-hmm. And while I understood where that person was coming from, it was more of a, like, if X never decided to say anything, even in that situation, nobody would have known. No one would have known, so no one would have known to treat her any differently or take what she said any differently. And they had 2 years? They had 2 years.
To share.
Or to just share, like, their pet peeves. Or you didn't have to tell us anything, but just share what bothers you when people do it. So that way...
we don't do it.
Exactly. They got out of the car. They went back to their dorms.
And then I got out of the back seat and I moved into the passenger seat. And then Jodi drove me to my dorm. And we sat there in silence for a good, 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. And I think we looked at each other and we just started laughing.
And while we were laughing, all of our phones pinged because someone in our group sent a text message out that said, check Snapchat.
Check X's Snapchat specifically.
Yes. So, we did. And the first thing was said was,
On X's Snapchat?
On X's Snapchat. Was Checkmate. Because I guess someone sent them screenshots of our group chat. Our group chat, it was called Checkmate because...
In us dismantling the hierarchy. Checkmate was the verbiage we decided to use.
Yeah, so there was that message. That was the first Snapchat. It was Checkmate. The second one was saying something along the lines... Basically, it referred to the three of us and how they took the head of the circle down.
Yes. And so they did that, and then they posted themselves lip-syncing to Drake's Fake Love. And Jodi and I were just like, and this is why we didn't feel sad.
Yes.
Because we knew that their ex's emotions were not coming from a genuine place. Even if they were, it wasn't going to last long.
Yes, it was more used as a thing to manipulate the situation into how they wanted it to go, and it didn't.
But I think before we even checked the Snapchat, we were just like, what just happened tonight? What is going on? And I think it was a very surreal experience.
Yes.
Because I have never experienced something like that before, and I don't ever want to experience that again. That was stressful.
It was mad stressful.
After Jodi and I had our laughter session.
And our Cheez-Its in your dorm. Fast forward, maybe like a month or two later, we had paid dues to the club, and the dues were not cheap because they included travel and all the other stuff. So we basically wanted to get our money back that we had paid because we were no longer doing anything with the club. So we went to our school counselors and whatnot, and like the people who handle student life, and they basically said that there's nothing they can do. However, over the course of time that X had this club established, under many, I guess, different names, they had continuously got complaints about this person. Why they hadn't put a stop to X owning a club or being a president of the club, I will never understand.
It's unbeknownst to me.
But, yes. And so we weren't able to get our money back. And X and the people who were on her side took our money and went to Disney World. Yes.
Honestly, like I said, it was a journey.
It was a trip.
And even every time I explain it, I feel like I just get a little more tired. But our friend Ruth enjoys hearing that story for some reason.
She finds it amusing.
I guess it was not amusing to go through.
No, it was not.
Retelling it.
I mean, looking back on it, like, it did have its funny moments. A lot of things were learned during that time. Trust your gut instinct.
If something doesn't feel right, listen. It is okay to leave.
Yes. And the biggest thing being is that if you don't face a situation head on, that situation will keep occurring until you decide that you're over it. Because for us, like, for example, I've encountered people not on the level of X, but like lower level demons. I didn't know we were challenging the boss, but we did. And I've learned that if mini X's or big X's keep showing up, it's because you haven't dealt with how to deal with them. And normally, for the most part, once you learn how to put an X in their place, it's easier to deal with it than on. And you don't have to do anything ridiculous or anything like that. Just do whatever is in, like, your grasp and your ability to do to just prevent them from using you as a springboard. Yes.
Preach.
And be nice to people.
Just be polite.
Be polite.
Honestly, out of everything that has just been said, I think the biggest takeaway, just be polite. Be
it really do be the golden rule.
And take care of yourself. But that was our story time of the woes of acapella. I hope it was easy to follow. There was a lot of stuff that happened, so trying to fit it in a shorter video.
And trying to fit it in almost chronological order.
And also trying not to call them out or be too specific. Very difficult.
Yes.
As we have learned. Hopefully it was easy enough to follow along.
And entertaining.
Yes. And
yes, like, subscribe, comment down below if you've ever dealt with exes and how you dealt with exes. Or your ex.
And if you have any advice you want to share, pretty much anything you want to comment.
Yes, anything that you felt even we could have done better, whatever you feel the need to say.
We appreciate constructive criticism. So we'll catch you next week.
Enjoy your Halloween. Bye. Drink responsibly.